All right, what's up, people? It's time for a fucking book report. Peter Levenda on Kenneth Grant, H.P. Lovecraft, Aleister Crowley, Thelema, um, various topics that he talks just a page or two about. Like Michael, I don't know how to pronounce this, Berteau, the guy that wrote the Voodoo Gnostic workbook, who's the figures into Kenneth Grant's writings. A.O. Spare, Austin Osman Spare, Jack Parsons. These latter individuals get very little treatment. Tantra, although I have a very big critique of his understanding of Tantra, if you know anything about real Tantra, what you'll understand is that, and this is why I go back to my belt levels, is that there are belt levels within Tantra. And he tends to focus in on that yellow belt, green belt level, which is everything is sexual. And if I had to really nutshell this book, I would say that it's an analysis of the sex death dichotomy or current that you might find in various traditions. And I think the reason for this should be obvious when it relates to human nature. One of my critiques about this book, very much so, is that it is in what's known as the syncretic tradition, or the tradition of correspondences, where you try to equate things or deities or currents across pantheons, which I think is very dangerous and short-sighted. When you try to equate this to that, there's a lot of that going on in here. I would say probably my biggest critique, other than one I'm going to level in a second, is that Peter Levenda, because he has a stake in his royalties for the book that he obviously compiled, meaning the Simon Necronomicon, which he refers to as the Schallencraft Recension. Now, you might not know what that means if you're unfamiliar. Schallencraft was a press, a book publisher. And this is the book publisher that went through the Magical Child E. Warlock shop in New York City, which is where this whole thing took place. Herman Slater, John Wasserman, these were the people that did this along with Levenda, created this book. And now all of a sudden it's a recension of the actual astral Necronomicon that's available on the whatever the fuck Akashic plane. Although he doesn't use those words. That would be more Blavatsky. And I don't think Blavatsky gets enough credit. She might have one mention in this book, if any at all. I think this is the syncretism is dangerous. Not dangerous. It's just stupid. It's a waste of time. I think it's disrespectful. I think overall, Peter Levenda is very disrespectful to the genius of H.P. Lovecraft, and the reason he has to be. Oh, he was just this guy that dreamed stuff that was real, but he just didn't know it. He was like a naive adept, you know, just putting this man down because his creative genius is something that Levenda tried to copy, and it just came across as like, oh, you're just sticking words from H.P. Lovecraft's myths into your fucking reconstructed Sumerian grimoire, and you're just doing a disservice to both by doing that. This is a book with a lot of footnotes. Okay, a lot of footnotes, quotes. I mean, quoted footnotes. Yet there's no bibliography. How do you do that? The reason you have a bibliography is so you can check footnotes, right? Bunch of footnotes, quoting from books, no bibliography. You're like, why is the bibliography important? He gave you the book, you can go look at the book. I don't know, maybe because a lot of books go through different printings. And if you give page numbers, which he can't because he doesn't give a bibliography, I don't know, man. There are exactly 3 diagrams in this book, and they're all 3 of them placed in inappropriate places. One of which is the Necronomicon sigil, you know, the one with the 3 different things that line up together. That's just put in a random place in the book with no explanation as to why it's there. As a matter of fact, then earlier on, there's a picture of the Tree of Life glyph, again just placed randomly, no reason why it's there. There are miss the third diagram, I believe, if you look at the top of the page, it has, okay, it's supposed to be in the introduction because it's within chapter such and such, right? It's in chapter 7 at the top. They'll have the name of the actual chapter. I forget which one it was. And every other page in that chapter has the correct, at the top, at center of the page, it'll have the title of the chapter. But where he gives this diagram, it has introduction, almost as if this was supposed to be in the introduction and it got moved later on and they never corrected that. Just stuff like that that's kind of, got to do this just to make sure that we don't time out the screen. It's put together kind of like, you'd almost think Michael Ford had something to do with the production of this work. It's just not put together very well. There's I guess one or two typos is going to slip through, but it almost seems as though there's a little bit of deception going on here. Pretty much no reference to Michael Aquino, which should be there because there's a lot of talk about Set as it relates to Thelema. And I think Thelema is one of the most overblown, overrated systems out there. I think it's garbage. Let me just put it like that. The more I get into Crowley and like analyzing him, I just think he was pretty much garbage, not for the reasons, Christians or whatever will say, but just because I think that, with more hindsight and more, we can just kind of see what was going on with this whole I'm starting a new religion thing. And no, you really didn't. We have the benefit of hindsight now. We can say, no, you really didn't start a new religion. You thought you did, but you really didn't. I don't want to make this fucking video go on forever. I mean, we can't make it a Dark Fool video, now can we? Kidding. His latest, Under the Order of the Horned God, is worth checking out on Enokin. Enokin in under 30 minutes. How do you do it? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to quote from, and this is one quote that I think just totally puts this book in its place. Okay, so this is going to be from page 298 of this book, The Dark Lord. And here it goes. Okay, I'm quoting now. One of the author's favorite thinkers is Michel Foucault. Period. Now, Foucault was a wild man himself. Check out his photographs. Read his books. He was French, but don't hold that against him. And then he says this, Foucault knew that a central focus of the state was control of the human body. Now, this is under his name, Peter Levenda, but if you read The Gates of the Necronomicon, purportedly by a different individual named Simon, you'll see that this is a theme that Levenda just can't get away from, meaning that he's very political in his analysis. However, what I find, the problem that I have here is one of the author's favorite thinkers is Michel Foucault. Now, Michel Foucault was known for two things, primarily. One was that he was a pioneer of postmodern philosophy, philosophy basically in which there are no meanings to words. Basically, you can make anything mean anything else. There really is no such thing as this or that. It's whatever you want it to fucking be, which is like retarded. I know I use the word postmodern in my book, but as I make clear, I'm using it in a totally different sense. Me and Aquino had argument after argument about that. He couldn't get past my usage of that word because, like most normal people, he had a problem with postmodernism as a philosophy. However, the other thing important to know about Michel Foucault is that he was a pedophile. Yep, he was a pedophile. One of the author's favorite thinkers is Michel Foucault. Now, Foucault was a wild man himself. Check out his photographs. I don't know which photographs you're talking about. Might those be pedophilic photographs? And when you look at this book, it's basically everything is, the sex, death, motif that is common in many mythologies and systems, obviously, because those are kind of the backbone of what life is all about, sex and death, right? Everything that's born is going to die, and species do not survive without reproduction. So those are very important concepts. And this book is basically trying to read that into every system at every turn. Now, there is a degree of this within every system, but to kind of oversell it is somewhat retarded. I would say buy this book if you're somebody who has a working knowledge of a lot of these systems, because it's just going to make you mad. It's going to get you. It's going to get you a little bit upset. The level of disrespect that he has for almost everything that he analyzes, because he's trying to fit everything into this one big overarching system, and he ends up basically taking the piss on pretty much every one of them in order. It's like, hey man, I have this jigsaw puzzle, but it looks like it's a bunch of different puzzles thrown into the same box. And you're like, well, I'm trying to fit this piece here, but it doesn't quite fit. Well, just fucking force it to fit. Just fucking pour some fucking water on that shit and melt the fucking cardboard down so that you can fit the piece in. And you're just like, you're watering everything down. You're basically watering off the image on the fucking puzzle piece, to the point where nothing has any specific meaning, getting back to Foucault, right? And you're just taking the piss on all these traditions. And I think that for somebody who knows these things, to have this book and to read it, which is a slog, by the way, just never-ending fucking, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And the last chapter, which is titled after the title of the book, it's just the writing style completely fucking changes. It starts getting really colloquial. In short, the Dark Lord will fuck you up. You know, it's like we start talking ghetto and shit. It's just, it's insane. Peter Levend is a grifter, always has been. He was always looking for his little way to make money. I mean, if you look at his fucking life story as he tells it, the one where he's basically pretending to be an Orthodox priest / bishop, which is what Simon also happened to be, according to the story. It's just, you see, this guy was always looking for the grift. And he found it at the expense of one of the greatest fictional geniuses of all time in H.P. Lovecraft. And for that sin, I will never forgive this man. If you see the real Necronomicon video, you'll see a little bit of what I'm talking about. If you watch my Necronomicon debate, you'll see what I'm talking about. This actually pisses me off because I'm a huge fan of H.P. Lovecraft and specifically his mythical genius. And to try to force fit Lovecraft into this thalamic paradigm that borrows on yellow belt levels of Tantra, is poorly understood, you know, taking these side journeys that never really pay off, trying to say that because, and this is where he fucks up, a la Kenneth Grant, is that, oh, this word sounds like this word. Oh, they're the same thing. No, they're not. I got into this with Warlock Asylum in our debate. IAO and IA are not the same thing. Well, they look kind of similar. One is IA and one is IAO. Yeah, well, you know what? Guess what? That O makes a difference. And you're like, well, one time H.P. Lovecraft, in one of his obscure writings, used the word Tulu, Tutulu, in just the, most offhanded, like almost as some kind of a chant. There's two words that come before it that have no relevance to anything. And this one's like, well, if you take the T and replace it with a K, then you get the word that I sprinkled throughout my fake Necronomicon. Oh, but that's the same as CTHULU, the spelling that Lovecraft used. Well, Lovecraft was just dreaming about the stuff that the stuff that Crowley wrote about in one sentence in one book that's obscure and has no meaning. So you're basically taking a shit on H.P. Lovecraft to say one word that's only even slightly similar. This is Kenneth Grant's problem, if you read him, is that there's too much equations going on. Like everything is equal to every fucking thing else, in which case nothing equals anything, and it's all pointless and ridiculous. If you're somebody who knows very little about these topics, I would recommend against this. I mean, yeah, you get a sprinkling of knowledge here and a sprinkling of knowledge there, but it's all twisted. And if you don't know the full stories about a lot of these systems and their interactions or lack thereof, you're going to get confused. You're going to think that there are bridges there where it's just basically a cliff and you end up thinking there's a bridge. You just walk off it. Emperor has no fucking clothes. So, yeah, in short, I think this book is a piece of garbage. Again, the author is a piece of garbage. I have very little respect for those who have no respect for the actual traditions that they're talking about and trying to force fit, square pegs into round holes. It's just not working with me. I know too much. I'm a black belt level thinker when it comes to shit like this, and to have all this yellow belt nonsense of fucking, the yellow belt's always that belt level that thinks, hey man, I could take the sensei. I could take him. Because you've been taught just enough to think you know how to fight. But then you realize you don't know shit. And that's the danger. But I don't say books are dangerous. Buy this book. Read this book. I mean, fuck. Get confused if you want. Say nice things about a pedophile while you're at it, dude. I don't know what to tell you. So yeah. This book wasted fucking a good week and a half of I'm halfway through my next work by now, which is a far superior work, I must say. I didn't know I got a limited edition because I didn't know where they put the numbering. So I have number 275 out of 300. What the book is, I'm not going to tell you yet until I give the review for it. Although I do have a funny story. There is an introduction in the book, not the Dark Lord, the book I'm reading now, far superior book. There's an introduction. I started reading it because in the table of contents, it just said introduction. And I read from front to back. I don't skip ahead. I don't skim. And I'm reading this and I'm like, this sounds like somebody that I think I know who it is. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I keep reading it. I'm like, there's no way. And then I get to the end and it's like, Frater, I forget what he calls himself, Michael W. Ford. Wrote the introduction to this book, and I didn't know that ahead of time. Like I said, it didn't say in the table of contents, it didn't say introduction by Michael W. Ford. It just said introduction. So I'm thinking the author wrote his own introduction because normally that's how, if you don't say introduction by so-and-so. I just start reading and I'm like, this sounds like Michael fucking Ford. And then sure enough, 2 pages later, Michael Ford. But I didn't hold that against this specific book because I actually have read it before in PDF, but not on a physical copy. Well, it supposedly got a limited numbered edition, not signed, numbered, because it's a reproduction. Insofar as I don't know if this guy's even still alive, but yeah, that book is next in review. It's actually a very, very good book. It's actually one that really does teach you about these things that Peter Levenda just kind of fucks up in delivery. Wow, this is a long video. Fuck it. Yep, Peter Levenda's a piece of shit. This book is a piece of fucking shit. Don't rip the pages out and use them to wipe your ass because it'd be a little bit too coarse and you might get hemorrhoids. I have no idea. But yeah, if you're into Michel Foucault and all that kid diddling, then go ahead and really listen to what this guy has to say. That one sentence is enough for me to just fucking throw this guy in the fucking wood chipper feet first, if you get what I'm saying.